Hello Wonderland, Kelly here, out for a one-park wander this morning at the John Radcliffe Conservation Area near Petersburg, Virginia, not too far from home. I'm out here with my friend Mike, hopefully you can see over there, looking for stuff. But yes, believe it or not, this is actually a video about DxO PureRAW 5. I thought I would come out, it's a gloomy morning, birds hopefully will be active around here, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to get some high ISO images that I can take back to the desk and show you what PureRAW 5 can do with them and give you my thoughts on that piece of software. So that's the plan. Let's do it. So far, we're not very far in, but I'm shooting the R7 with the 100-500 for birds right now. And I've got the R5 II here on my strap for scenics at the moment. I'll swap that out later. Here's some more stuff. Favorite part here, the dam. Walk out there, and there's usually some good stuff. So I've switched at this point to the R5 Mark II and the 100-500. I think I got some shots with the R7. We'll see how that comes out. Woodpecker nearby. Okay, let's head out here. See what there is to see. Some barn swallows, I believe, out there. Try to get some shots of those. Bald eagle, bald eagle. Oh, I was not prepared. We've been seeing that flying by, and I keep missing it. Great blue heron out there. I'll shoot him before I get too close and spook it. Yes, not bad at all. Spend a few minutes here. I like this place. Well, since this is starting out as a on-location video, I'm sure I've been showing you photos as we go of what we've seen today. Wrapping up now, so I'll head back home, back to the desk, and show you how I got those final edited images, and talk about DxO PureRAW 5 while we're at it. Let's do that. Okay, it's been a few days. Back at my desk, we can get into the meat of the DxO PureRAW 5 situation. Give you some thoughts on that. I want to show you some edits. I've selected a few of these images. I haven't edited these shots from Radcliffe yet. I've culled them to pick out the ones I think are worth editing. And then I selected a kind of a handful of those to really take you through PureRAW. So we can process them a couple ways within PureRAW 5, maybe compare that to PureRAW 4 and Lightroom's built-in AI denoise functionality, and let you draw some conclusions from that. So this is the little batch that I've selected. I think we'll start here. This is probably one of the best shots of the day. Didn't get a whole lot really. We weren't there for too long and didn't see too much, but this is a prothonotary warbler, which is one of the ones I was looking for. One of my favorite birds. They move into the area this time of year, so always a pleasure to see them and shoot them in the face. So yeah, this was with the R5 Mark II and the 100 to 500 millimeter. I think most of these are with the 100 to 500 millimeter lens, so lens sharpness would not be an issue. And this is at ISO 3200, so not terrible for the ISO. Lighting was okay in this area. This was by the dam there, I believe. So yeah, if I zoom in to 100%, you can see at 3200, detail is not terrible, but there's a lot of grain and noise. And if I go all the way to 200, maybe to exaggerate it a little bit for YouTube purposes, you can really see the grain in the image. This is RAW. I always shoot RAW, of course. So to kind of, I should probably introduce this a little bit, right? So DxO PureRAW is one of the denoising softwares that are out on the market. So Lightroom has its own built-in. DxO PureRAW is one that's pretty well known. There's Topaz Denoise, which I have not ever used, so caveat there. But DxO PureRAW I've been using since version 2, and I really liked it. I like the results it gives. I feel like it does a little bit better at denoising than Lightroom's denoise, which I don't think was even a thing until fairly recently, last year maybe. But I also like that DxO has lens corrections built in, so it adds a little bit of extra detail, a little bit of distortion correction. You can turn that off, of course, if you don't want it to do quite that much or anything other than denoising. But I've used it and I've liked it. So yes, let's begin there. So to get an image over to PureRAW, there's a few ways. You can export it to it. I usually go to the File menu, plug in extras, and then when you've got it installed, of course, you can see some options. So I still have PureRAW 4 installed, and I have PureRAW 5. I am going to, I'll do a preview and process for the first time to show you how PureRAW 5 looks and works. Okay, so here we have the main window for PureRAW 5. Looks pretty similar to PureRAW 4. I think they've added some functionality in 5 that I'll talk about a little bit, but that I don't really use. So yeah, gives you a nice before and after. You can drag the slider to see what your original looked like versus what kind of a simulation of the PureRAW effect looks like. So I'm going to zoom this in to 100%, hopefully. Okay, there we go. So yeah, again, this is the before. This is what it estimates would be the after. So you can see already pretty excellent results. And that's before it actually commits any of these changes. So your other features or settings over here, luminance noise, how much of that you want to take in and out. I think 50 is the default, and I kind of leave it that way. force details if you want to kind of bring out more feather detail, more of the scale detail around the eye. That's what I tend to look for when I'm shooting birds. You can crank that up a little bit. Again, your optical corrections, you can turn those on and off. I like the sharpness optimization. That adds that bit of extra detail. You can also remove vignetting, chromatic aberration, and some distortion, so you can kind of see that effect there. Once you've got these set, you can do the process instantly, which I'll get to, and then it just remembers the last settings you used, so that is quite nice. Within version 5, I don't think this was in 4, but now, let me zoom this back out. You've got some more local corrections, so you can actually mask and paint in different areas that you want to work on, or apply the effect to more than others or at all. Really haven't played with that because I really don't use that. I just run the images through PureRAW, bring them back into Lightroom, and then do the rest of my editing. So I would show you that if I knew what I was doing, but I really don't. And then in terms of output, you can output to DNG. That's what I typically do, TIFF or JPEG. DNG, I feel like, gives you probably the most data to work with, so that's what I stick with. It does make the files larger than the compressed RAW that the R5 II or whatever Canon camera or camera you're using probably puts out. So keep that in mind. It does take a little bit more storage because you've got your original RAW, and then you've also got the output of PureRAW, which is a separate image file. I have it put the processed image back in the original folder with the processing method appended to the name. So typically Deep Prime, oh, I didn't show you that. The actual method it's using has some options here. Deep Prime is kind of their DxO's name for their noise reduction and detail enhancement. XD is extra detail. I really like the Deep Prime XD2, which I believe premiered or debuted with PureRAW 4, or maybe 3. And that really hasn't changed too much. Deep Prime 3 is new to PureRAW 5, and I will show you that, but I don't use it, and you'll see why. Okay, so once I've got all that set, I'm going to process. As someone's at the door. Takes it a few seconds, not too bad, depending on your PC, of course. And then re-imports it back into Lightroom. So we can see this is the processed image. That noise is totally gone. Detail looks pretty nice. And then I can move on to process. And I will do that real quick. So I'm just going to throw on my preset that I typically use, which comes from Mr. Brent Hall. Thank you very much, Brent Hall. If I can find it. There it is. Tend to like what this does to my colors. I'm going to crop in a bit, put the bird a little more larger in the frame, maybe rule of thirds it a bit here. Not too bad. And then I tend to add just a little bit of vignetting to draw the eye in to the subject. Keep that pretty subtle this time. The bird itself could be a little brighter. I'm going to increase my shadows a little bit. Bring back some highlights. Yeah, that's not bad. And then maybe a little more vignetting, actually, since I've done that. And that's good enough for government work. Okay, so that's the image. I'm going to flag that as a keeper. And then if I go back to, actually, let's do this. So back to my original. Since we've done that, I'm going to, again, send that over to PureRAW 5. This time I'm going to do the Deep Prime 3 and show you the difference there. They say ultimate quality for noise reduction, but you notice it does not have the extra details part because it doesn't have Deep Prime 3 XD or XD3. I'm going to leave the settings about the same otherwise, and I'm going to process that real quick. And you will see here, the reason I don't use the Deep Prime 3 it really doesn't enhance the details as much. So if I go back to my folder here, so this was my original. Noisy, not very detailed. This is what we got from XD2. So noise is gone, details better. And here I'm at 200% actually. Let me take that out to 100% just for a little bit of, okay, details better. And then this is the D'3. So let me just copy or sync my developed settings so they're getting the same look here, and sync the crop as well actually. Okay, so this is XD2 and this is D'3. And actually, for this image, they look pretty similar, don't they? I don't see too much difference there. So in this case, D'3 worked pretty well. But normally I find it doesn't enhance the detail as much as I like. So I usually use the XD2. Yeah, all right. Now I'm going to go back to my subset of images here. Let's jump to another prothonotary warbler. This one, the ISO jumped up to 20,000, so that is a bit more of a challenge, as you can see. Going to 200, not getting much butt noise, right? So let's see how that one comes out. I'm gonna go File and back to PureRAW 5. This was with the R7. Which is probably why that's a bit noisier, especially at 20,000 ISO, but still with the 100 to 500. So whenever you process an image with a camera or lens or both that you haven't done before, it goes and downloads its lens module and camera module for that combination. So that's pretty cool. And that is quick. Here again, I'm going to zoom in. There we go. So you can see on D'3, it's removing the noise pretty well, but it's not really bringing me back any detail. If I switch to XD2, maybe a little more detail, but at 20,000 on the R7, that's going to be a tall order to bring much back. But let's give it a try. Oh, I didn't mention the third mode here, D' XD3 X-Trans, and that's only made to work with certain camera sensors, which is not what I'm using, an X-Trans sensor. So that is not available for Canon R5 Mark II or any Canon camera that I'm aware of. But I'm hoping maybe they'll add XD3 normal without the X-Trans at some point, or maybe that'll wait for PureRAW 6. We shall see. Okay, I'm going to process this. Because the preview is kind of just a quick simulation, it doesn't always give you the full effect of what it's going to do once it processes. And this has taken a little longer. There we go. Sometimes it just freezes up a little and then it eventually gets there. So re-importing that image. You can already tell it looks a lot cleaner. But Mr. Warbler is not very detailed, and maybe I may have missed focus just a little bit here, or I'm at 1/640th of a second. Might be a little camera shake, but either way you can tell that is not as sharp as we would like. But if I process it anyway, crop him in a little as well. I like the leaves over there. I'm going to kind of center him a little more. Do a little bit of vignetting like I do. Bring back a little bit of highlight. Brighten things up. There we are. So not great at ISO 20,000 on the R7, but it could be worse. Speaking of, let's go back here. I'm going to go back to the first prothonotary that we did, and let's do this with Lightroom's AI denoise and see how that compares. Since it's ISO 3200, that's not too much of a challenge. So photo enhance. And we want denoise. You can play with this amount slider, obviously. Let's get over towards his head. I think 65 is kind of what I've settled on, is what looks pretty good to me. Maybe I'll take it up to 70. Super resolution just gives you a upscaled image. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to do this with the AI denoise. That is thinking about it. And then we can compare those results. First thing I'm going to do is apply the same editing to it with the crop and everything. So again, this is Deep Prime 3. Deep Prime 2 XD, XD2, and this is the Lightroom denoise. So you can really see it did a good job on the noise, obviously, but it didn't bring us back any detail. And what we can do there is just add some sharpening. I mask him a bit. But still, to me, even sharpened, that feather detail that you get with the PureRAW is just where it's at for me. Could probably sharpen this more and maybe get a little back, some local contrast and whatnot, but the ease of getting it out of PureRAW definitely works for me. Okay, let's do one or two more out of here. Let's see, there is, this one. Happened to snap a quick shot of this kingfisher flying by with a fish in its mouth. Pretty fun. This one was with the R5, yes, and at ISO 12,800. So not a great image necessarily, but definitely liked the pose of the bird, and it looks like I got him pretty sharp. So I'm going to do a quick instant process with the last settings I used in PureRAW 5. So if I do process instantly, that should just very quickly bring up this. Process now, and it kind of listed out, I went through that pretty quick, but it listed out the settings that it's going to apply, which would be the last settings that I used within the program. That's simple enough. There we go. Once it got into gear, then it will re-import the new image, of course. And yeah, that looks much better, doesn't it? If I go to 200 on that. Not too shabby. So here, let's go to develop. My preset. I'm gonna crop that in fairly heavily. I still like the bird fairly centered though. I'm gonna move him there. That'll work. My vignette. Let's see how we do with sharpening. Oops. Wrong button there. There we go. Just sharpen down to the bird a bit. That's 200%, 100, pretty happy with that. Let me bring back some of the blue in him, and I'm going to take those greens down just a little bit. Outstanding. All right, Radcliffe. Let's see if there's any others that are worth doing real quick. How about Mr. Frog? ISO 6400, so that's not bad. Pretty noisy at 100, 200 obviously, even noisier. So let's do a quick process on this one. Plug in extras, process. Oh, I did say I was going to do PureRAW 4, didn't I? Let's do that instead, since you've seen PureRAW 5. And we'll verify an update is available. It just adds some new, I haven't used this for a while, add some new cameras and lenses, so I don't think I care too much about that right now. You can see the interface looks a little bit different. If I want to zoom this in, let's go 1:1. Not 2:1, yeah, 1:1. There we go. So that's 100%. So this is original RAW on the left, D prime XD2 on the right. So yeah, I think PureRAW 3 introduced XD2, PureRAW 4 added XD2S, which is a little bit better. And then you've got your standard prime and D prime, so I never use those. My other settings should be pretty similar here. Luminance, force details, that's about the same. Okay, gonna process that. Re-import. And there, I'm thinking I had a little bit of camera shake on that, 1/80th of a second, yeah, definitely. But the noise definitely looks a lot better. Froggy doesn't look too bad. Would have been better without the camera shake though. So if I do my quick process on that, definitely want to vignette him in a little more. Let's bring back some highlights. Not too much. Boost my shadows. Darks up a little bit here, lights. Otherwise, yeah, sharpening mainly on the frog. Not too impressive on that, but at least at 100% it doesn't look too bad. 200 it doesn't look great. And of course, scaled for social media or whatnot, looks pretty decent. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So let's talk a little about conclusions. I don't want to drag this on too long. But obviously, I think this is the impressive one. Definitely the detail that you're able to bring back on something, a bird like this or subject like this, is really what makes DxO PureRAW worth it to me, because you don't get that. You get the noise removal from Lightroom's AID noise, but you really don't get the detail restoration like that in one step anyway. So that's why I like PureRAW in general. But as far as PureRAW 5 goes, I was a little disappointed. I jumped on the upgrade pretty quick when it was announced. Kind of wish I hadn't, just because it really didn't add anything over PureRAW 4. Like I showed you, the D prime 3 did well on this image. On others, though, I found it doesn't add that extra detail that I'm looking for. So I really tend not to use that one. I used the XD2S, and that was in PureRAW 4. So the only real addition for me in PureRAW 5 is the new interface and some of those added features. But again, I don't really use those because of my workflow either. So my bottom line is, if you don't have a denoise software, I definitely recommend PureRAW. And since 5 is the currently available version, that's kind of the one that you have to get at this point. And it's worth it if you don't have one. But if you already have PureRAW, I'd say version 3 or version 4. 4 was a decent step up from 3, adding XD2S. So that's worth it. But the jump from 4 to 5 is not worth it. So yeah, so if you have PureRAW already, if you have PureRAW 3, maybe consider going to 5 for the XD2S. But if you have PureRAW 4, I would say don't get PureRAW 5. Just because the interface, unless you need those interface options, that might be worth it. But right now, D Prime 3 is not worth the upgrade to me. I don't feel like it adds anything over XD2S, and in fact, I think it's a little bit worse. So maybe if they add XD3 at some point to PureRAW 5, that might be worth it at that point. But I kind of suspect that'll wait until PureRAW 6. So you might want to wait as well. So I'm going to edit the rest of these images and finish up this video, and that will do it. If you have any questions or anything, obviously drop me a line. Always happy to reply to comments, always happy to get comments. Yeah, and until next time, be good to yourself, take care of each other, don't forget to be awesome, get out and wander. Later.